The alarm bell rang before my wings even touched the sky. I heard it echo through the stone halls of the palace, sharp and fast, and I knew it was for me. My heart pounded harder than my wings beat. I had climbed out of the highest tower window, past the guard posts, past the sleeping dragons of my mother's court, and now the whole palace was waking up behind me, like a storm that had just noticed the wind changed. I did not look back. If I looked back, I would lose my nerve, and if I lost my nerve, I would spend another year trapped inside marble walls, learning how to sit, how to speak, how to bow to nobles who smelled like old perfume and older secrets. I wanted none of that tonight. I wanted the sky. My wings caught the wind, and I dropped low over the mountains, hugging the ridges so the palace guards could not see my shape against the stars. Below me, torches lit up one by one along the palace walls. Voices shouted my name. Not my real name, but the short version everyone used when they wanted me to behave. Eliza. Eliza, come back. Eliza, this is dangerous. I flew faster. The mountains fell away behind me, and the land opened into fields and rivers I had only ever seen from books. My chest burned from the cold air, but I did not slow down until the palace lights were nothing but a small gold smear behind the peaks. Only then did I let myself breathe. I was free. For the first time in my whole life, truly free. But freedom without a plan is just falling with style, and I had no plan at all. I did not know where I was going. I only knew what I wanted, and what I wanted was strange for a princess of my bloodline. I wanted to learn how ordinary people lived, not warriors, not scholars, not diplomats. I wanted to learn something small and simple, something with my own two hands, away from crowns and rules, and eyes that watched my every move. I found the river before I found the village. It curled through a valley like a silver ribbon, catching the last light of the moon. I dropped down beside it, folded my wings tight, and pulled the glamour spell over myself, the way my tutor had taught me, though she never imagined I would use it to sneak away from home. My scales vanished. My horns shrank into nothing. My claws became small human fingers, shaking from the cold and the thrill of what I had just done. I looked like an ordinary child now, barefoot, dirty, and completely alone in a world I did not understand. That was when I saw the old man. He was sitting on a fallen log near the water, a fishing rod in his weathered hands, a hat pulled low over silver hair. He did not look surprised to see a child appear out of nowhere in the middle of the night. He simply glanced over, raised one eyebrow, and said my hiding spot in the reeds was not as clever as I thought it was. My whole body went stiff. If he screamed, if he ran, if he called for help, every guard in the kingdom would know exactly where to find me. But he did none of those things. He only patted the log beside him and asked if I wanted to learn how to cast a line before the fish woke up and got smart. His name was Otis. I told him mine was Eliza, and nothing more. He did not ask why a child was alone by a river before sunrise. He did not ask why my eyes flashed gold when the moonlight hit them wrong, or why my shadow, for one careless second, looked far too large for my small body. He simply handed me a rod that was too big for my hands, and told me to relax my wrist, because a good cast was not a battle, it was a whisper. My first throw went straight up and landed in my own hair. He laughed so hard he nearly fell off the log, and for a moment, I forgot to be afraid of being caught. I laughed too, and it felt strange and wonderful, because nobody in the palace ever laughed at me like that, without fear, without flattery, just pure and simple joy. We fished as the sun rose over the hills. He told me about his wife, who used to sit on this same log and swear she could talk to fish. He told me about his grandson in the city, who called every week and worried too much about an old man living alone by a river. He asked me nothing about myself, and that silence felt like the kindest gift anyone had ever given me. Then the sky changed. Dark clouds rolled in from the mountains, fast and heavy, and I recognized the shape of them instantly. Storm wings. Dragon riders moved through clouds like that when they searched the land for someone hiding below. My mother had sent hunters after me, and they were close. Otis noticed my sudden stillness and asked if something was wrong. I told him I had to go, that people were looking for me, and that it was not safe to stay near me any longer. He did not ask who was looking. He simply gathered his fishing gear, calm as ever, and told me that a person running from trouble should never run on an empty stomach, and that his house was close enough to reach before the storm broke. I should have refused. Every rule I had ever learned told me to keep moving, to keep humans away from danger, to protect the secret of what I truly was. But something about his steady voice made me follow him anyway, my bare feet slapping against the wet grass as thunder rolled closer behind us. His house was small and warm, filled with the smell of wood smoke and old books. He gave me a blanket and a bowl of soup, and for a few minutes I almost forgot the storm outside, almost forgot the guards circling somewhere above the clouds, searching for a runaway princess who had broken every law of her bloodline just to feel the wind on her own wings. Then the door shook. Not from wind. From something landing hard on the ground outside, wings folding, with a sound like snapping sails. I knew that sound. It was a royal guard, and he had found me. Otis stood between me and the door without hesitation, an old fishing rod still in his hand, as if it could somehow protect either of us. I told him to move, that this was not his fight, that dragons this size could crush a house without even trying. He did not move an inch. He said no child was getting dragged out of his home while he still had breath in his body, and that was the end of the discussion. The door burst open, and there stood Edwin, one of my mother's most trusted guards, his scales dark as midnight, his eyes burning with anger and relief all at once. He looked at me, small and human-shaped and trembling, and then at the old man standing bravely in front of me, and for a moment, nobody spoke at all. I stepped out from behind Otis before Edwin could say a single word. I told him I was not going back, not yet. Not until I understood why I had never once been allowed to simply exist without a crown pressing down on my head. My voice shook, but I did not stop talking. I told him about the river, about the fishing rod, about the first real laugh I had shared with anyone in years. Edwin listened. His anger slowly faded into something softer, something almost like understanding. He told me my mother was not angry, only frightened, because the whole kingdom had woken to find their princess missing, and fear made even queens forget how to speak gently. He asked me to come home, not as an order, but as a request. I looked back at Otis one last time. He gave me a small nod, the kind of nod that told me it was all right, that I could go, that he understood I had somewhere I truly belonged, even if I had needed one wild, thrilling morning away from it first. I promised him I would return. Not as a runaway this time, but as a friend, whenever the sky allowed it. Edwin carried me home through the breaking storm, and when we landed in the palace courtyard, my mother was waiting, her wings half spread, her eyes wide with worry. She quickly tried to hide behind royal composure. She did not shout. She only pulled me close and asked if I was hurt, and when I said no, she asked what on earth had possessed me to fly into a storm alone. I told her the truth. I told her about the river, about Otis, about the fishing rod, and the trout that fought harder than any lesson I had ever learned in the palace halls. I told her that for one morning, I had simply been a person, not a princess, and that it was the best morning of my entire life. She did not scold me the way I expected. Instead, she asked me to tell her everything, every small detail, as if she too remembered what it felt like to want something simple in a world built entirely from expectations. From that day forward, once every week, the guards allowed me one quiet morning by the river, always watched from a careful distance, always ready if trouble came again. Otis kept 2 fishing rods ready on that same fallen log, waiting patiently for the little dragon princess who had once fallen out of the sky and into his life. I never became a perfect fisherman. My casts still tangled more often than they should, but every single week, sitting beside an old man who never once cared what crown I wore or what kingdom waited behind the mountains, I learned something far more valuable than any lesson taught within palace walls. I learned what it truly felt like to be free,